everybody. I am so excited to bring this episode of The Beats to you with Dr. Avery Smith. He's a chiropractor with years of wisdom, even though he doesn't have years of clinical experience yet behind him. But what this man has put together, his understanding of the human body, of relationships, of how to get us to start to pay attention to our bodies and how to get our bodies to start to pay attention to us, is extremely different. And I'm very honored to share this not meds practitioner who's from South Carolina. His approach is very different, and you don't want to miss this. I know you've met a lot of chiropractors in your life, as have I. Dr. Avery is one of a kind. Here's one in a million for you, Dr. Avery. Welcome to The Beats with Kelly Kennedy from Our Hearts to Yours. And I have a very new friend, a very special guest. Dr. Avery Smith is here.
There you go.
Why did that sound weird? I don't know, because I call him Avery all the time, Dr. Avery.
I don't like Dr. Smith.
Yeah, and even when I said it, it sounded weird.
Too formal.
Yes,
way too formal.
So one of the reasons that Not Meds is here, naturally oriented therapists, medically enlightened doctors and specialists, is because we want to bring to you the most cutting edge technology, the most cutting edge practitioners, and more than anything, the paradigm, the people that have the proper understanding. And when we met Dr. Avery, both Ian and I, we were kind of blown away, because you can say he's not very ripe in his age, but his knowledge is super ripe, and the wisdom that comes from him. And I, myself, and Silas have all been adjusted. All of us have had completely different types of adjustments and assessments, not assessments, but adjustments. He already does HRV. I'm like giving his resume, but we've had a lot of time together in the last few weeks, to a couple months. He and his beautiful partner, Jillian, have opened up Rooted Living here about not even like a year ago, correct?
November.
Yeah. And they've been very kind to us down in South Carolina, allowing us to use some of their space and take over. So we wanted to bring this podcast to you because Dr. Avery is not the typical chiropractor. There are great chiropractics out there, and not all are created equal. And I really wanted to exemplify that. So welcome, Dr. Avery. We have a live podcast. You don't get to do this very often.
I know it. Yeah, so just to branch off of, I never talk bad about other chiropractors, right? And the best thing about the profession of chiropractic is if you believe it works, right? Though I think there's a lot of disconnects from older generation chiropractic to new generation chiropractic. I was introduced to quantum physics. I was introduced to Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton. And then it was like, from a material world of where a belief of misalignment, like an osseous misalignment, and when I say osseous, a bone misalignment, to there's no such thing as a misalignment. It's actually a lack of consciousness, and what's really affecting. When I say lack of consciousness, it's going to branch into a number of things.
Yes, right? Please. Quantum physics, you can see Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. You see why we're on the same page?
Yeah. So it's a branch between subconscious and conscious mind, right? So when I say subconscious, conscious mind, I always like to tie in brain waves with that. When I say brain waves, I mean, for the sake of simplifying it, it would be, let's say, beta, alpha, theta, delta, right? So imagine it as like an iceberg, and you have 90% of an iceberg underneath the water, right? Beta is the only thing above the water. Reason being, because beta is a conscious brain state. Alpha, theta, and delta are all subconscious brain states. So how do we start affecting theta and delta, right? Alpha, you can usually get into alpha if you're in a hyper learning state. If you're trying to concentrate, you're trying to learn something really new that's exciting to you, you can get into alpha. That's when you're getting into a flow state, if you will.
I did not tell him to say that, into flow state.
Yeah.
That was good.
And then theta is a deep meditation, right? So that's when you're getting into slowing. Your mind is awake, but your body is asleep. That's theta. Delta is when we're in deep sleep, and it's actually one of the most healing states that we have. That's why for all my patients and practice members, I always ask about sleep. I always try to make sure sleep is getting significantly better. If not, then we're switching up some things and making sure, because if you're not sleeping, that's the problem. Why we're seeing, I think, so many degenerative diseases, so many things, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, everything's on the rise so much because our hormones are a mess, first of all, and then sleep is completely just blue light has ruined sleep. And when I say that, I mean
and stress.
Stress, 100%.
And stress.
Well, blue light literally produces stress in our system. So being
blue light is the fluorescent light, the typical lights that you see if you're not doing something to block it. Computer screens, all of that has blue light that it emits, and it kills a lot of our hormones through the rods and cones in your eyes.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize that we're designed as beings to go to bed when the sun goes down and to rise when the sun comes up, right? One of the most powerful parts to do and how to get more energy in your life literally would be look at the sunrise every morning with your feet on the ground, sand, preferably ocean if you're near it, and you'll have enough energy for the whole entire day without even taking anything, eating anything. Back to why there's disconnects with sleep with blue light is because when we have the TV playing, the computer, our phones, looking before bed, our brain actually perceives the sun being out if a blue light is actually shining into our eyes, even though it's 10 o'clock at night. So we're not producing melatonin, sleep hormone, for an additional 4 hours after that. So talk about deep sleep. Most people aren't even getting hardly any deep sleep. And then branching back into conscious, subconscious, little segue there. And when I say how my term of chiropractic changes subconscious versus conscious mind is when you're getting an adjustment, I want you to shut off your senses. When you're shutting off your senses, when you're going face down, that's a super vulnerable place, first of all, for a lot of people. And I always am making sure I'm communicating with the system in a way that the system is always comfortable and trusting. So
the autonomic nervous system we're talking about, the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, as well as the peripheral,
as well as the whole entire being itself.
The whole being. So we're not just talking about the nervous system. We're talking about the entire energy of the body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, the physical body, always. All of it.
Yep. 100%. And you can't just neglect one and say that this is this and this is this, and that's an entirely, we're not machines in a sense. We're all entirely connected. So as far as making someone feel trusting, and I always say welcome, not to the person, but in my head, always welcoming. And people open up like crazy just after that. And not to get into adjusting dynamics, but you always want to, I always call it establishing continuity, if you will. So getting rid of disconnects. So there's such thing as disconnects in the system. They usually operate as like bands in the system. A lot of guys have belts, and that squeezing tension is usually a disconnect from the body. Bra straps, things like that, necklaces that are tight. But you can have disconnects even in your toes, and I always am communicating with the body. Have we established continuity? Have we established things? What's the first subluxation tract that I'm going to look at?
Subluxation is when, can you grab the spine real quick, Dr. Avery?
Well, my term of subluxation, I'll go into a little bit differently.
But we're talking about chiropractics here. So we are talking about spine, but he's talking way more about other aspects of the body, not just the spine, because he realizes as a specialist of the spine, he's affecting all these nerves come out of the spine and affect and communicate with every single part of our body. So he is aware of that, and he looks at that, and he has lots of different techniques that he has employed, both with all three of us. I've watched him employ different techniques with each one of us because you've trained through your chiropractic college, but you continue to go on and look, because he is like a dog with a bone. When he finds somebody that has something that's wrong with them, he won't give up until he finds the answer.
Exactly. So my term subluxation is different than most chiropractors. Most chiropractors, an old school chiropractor would say subluxation is pressure on a nerve causing dysfunction in the system itself, which is true in a sense, right? So, and there's documented evidence that if, say, this bone right here is out of place, right, and it's shifted back and to the left, right, it's putting pressure on this nerve. Say this nerve is going to your stomach. You're going to have digestion issues. It doesn't matter how the best nutrition in the world, but if this nerve is not having the best impulse to it and communicating with the brain properly, it doesn't matter. You could eat the best thing in the world, but your system is still in dysfunction or disconnect.
So I can have the greatest dishwasher in the world. It'll wash all the best dishes, but there's no electric going to the dishwasher. Exactly. It's not going to wash a dish.
Exactly. So, and yes, that is true, subluxation wise. Though my term subluxation and philosophy of it has altered over the years. So,
over the years,
going into a rabbit hole. Yeah, exactly. So going into a little bit of a rabbit hole here. Subluxation, in my opinion.
Keep your hands over your mouth because we are on video.
That's subluxation, in my opinion, is the lack of the ability of the body to process something at a certain period of time.
All right, let's say it again. A subluxation is the lack of the body to process something at any given time.
Yes.
So it's a lack of regulation.
Mm-hmm. So
compensation.
Yes, and.
Yes,
so
and.
And that means so many things. Emotional trauma. So your mother could have said you're not good enough when you're third grade, and that locks into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, a subluxation doesn't have to be actually physical in the spine itself. It can very, very much be emotional, soft tissue, connective tissue, muscular, everything around it too. So, and when I say subluxation, it used to get like a bad term or a bad rap to it. Subluxation slayers is what some chiropractors would say. And I think it's a very, very important factor of our being. It's a adaptation that we've gotten, because innate intelligence is always around us. Universal intelligence, God, whatever word you want to put with it, right, is always here. So why would we need to rely on something that is harmful, or why would the body not just correct it itself, right? Because the body is so intelligent. I think this is where our measure of a good life is the relationships that we have in it, correct?
That is a huge statement. Let's slow that down.
Yep.
So the measure of a good life is the relationships that we have in it. Relationships with ourselves.
Relationships
with others. Relationships across the board.
Yes. And when I say that, I mean that we need to rely on other people for our healing sometimes. It's our responsibility, but it doesn't have to be our entire endeavor, right? So when I say that, I think subluxation is a process where then we take a guiding light to release that subluxation. So we're actually increasing bandwidth of what we can process then. So I imagine someone, when I first start seeing someone, imagine their bandwidth being this big.
Okay.
Right. And then we start breaking down some patterns. We start focusing on breath, focusing on processing stress in a more conscious, more aware way, right? So the first thing I always say, notice what you notice. You might notice things like your back might be a little sore, your sleep might be altered, but I'm just, honestly, at the first beginning of care, I'm trying to say, that's amazing that you notice that, because we're waking up the system. That's what we're looking for right now. We're trying to branch our brain back to our body.
And communicate.
Exactly. So back to it's the measure or subluxation, why we have to, I think it's a measure of relying on someone else to build a relationship in our life. So then we are increasing bandwidth. Bandwidth, again, when I first start seeing someone, is about here, start releasing patterns, and then we start slowly increasing. And then when you start playing with the nervous system in a dance-like fashion, like I'll be adjusting sometimes. It's amazing to see the life changes that occur in such a short period of time. Working out for the first time in 25 years, eating healthy. And yes, I will say certain things about eating and things like that, but for the majority of time, I'm more or less quiet with a patient and we're just working this. And I want it to be their idea, because if it's my idea, it doesn't mean nearly as much as if it were an internal idea.
And that internal idea happens because there's a flow of energy where there was a blockade prior to your adjustment. Just so and you will hard adjust sometimes.
Yes.
You do network chiropractic, you do TCM, you do
BGI, all kinds.
He's got a lot of tools, that's the bottom line. Like us, and that's, I think, why we felt like we were in synergistic kismet, because you and I started to talk, and it was like, oh, do you do this? Do you do this? And he's learning allergy elimination technique. He's learning all these different things. And we know a lot of different things, and we get together and we're like, wow. So when he assesses the body, he might only need, like for me, a hammer and a screwdriver, whereas for Ian, he might need a drill and I don't know, I'm out of tool analogies.
Miter saw.
Oh, there you go, a miter saw. He's also extremely handy. But it's really looking at the body from, I'm not just here to adjust my spine, looking at my whole person, understanding my whole person, and welcoming that care, allowing that person to walk through this experience with you, being open so that he can find those misconnections, disconnections, and help them all connect. And when they connect, the person all of a sudden goes, maybe I'm going to choose the salad for lunch rather than the burger. They're not really conscious why, but they might notice that, come back because he's made them conscious. What changes have you noticed? And I've really noticed that I care for myself better than I did the week prior to meeting you.
Exactly. And branching the subconscious, conscious mind, you mentioned it right there briefly, it's when we're adjusting someone, they're in alpha, right? So, and sometimes we actually get into theta too, just depending. Cranial work will get people into theta, which is super interesting. Alpha, and then with alpha, we actually usually throw them on to a brain tap. So brain tap is a super interesting little tool I use. And it's about a 10 or 20 minute session for people. You put headphones in that actually have lights and go through your ears. We have light receptors in our ears. And then also you put these little headphones over your eyes, close your eyes, and then allow the light to pretty much penetrate. And what that does, it uses binaural beats, light frequencies, affirmations, walking you through, and so meditation is tough.
For a lot of people.
For so many people. Yeah. It was super tough for me for a long while too. And what this does is expedites that process. So for example, a monk might train 10 or 20 years to actually get efficient at meditating, getting into theta at a quick state. Brain tap can really, really expedite that process in about a 10 or 20 minute period, and people feel like they just took like a 4-hour nap and wake up and they're golden.
And we use Light, but it's very similar. What we're doing is trying to change the brain waves to put you in different state of mind.
Exactly.
No joke. They have a street here called State of Mind, by the way, here in Bluffton.
Well, Ian and I had a conversation about the light the other day, and I was actually listening to a podcast. And I was telling him about a peptide that I heard not too long ago, and it's actually for decalcifying your pineal gland.
The pineal gland.
Yeah. Did he tell you about it?
No. Yeah. But I'm so familiar with that work because of the fluoridation of the pineal gland. Fluoridation in general, which calcifies the pineal gland, which stops people from opening up their third eye, allowing them the states of meditation, blocking us from our inner selves and our inner knowledge. And we could do a whole podcast just on that.
Exactly. And I was like, so I asked him, do people respond really well to these? Like some yes, some no. I'm like, I wonder if that's a contributing factor to that. Is the calcification.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. But there's so many dynamics of the body that it could be a personal blockage or emotional blockage of this is just not me, right? And if that's a whole different conversation. And sometimes the adjustment is a conversation, which is the beautiful part about the body.
So one of the things when Silas was adjusted, going to probably kill me in 10 years. I go, Mom, I'm always the subject of your podcast, but you made a comment about his right versus left brain.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I want everybody to see Dr. Avery. Stand up for a second. This guy is built like a house. Like he's so incredibly strong. Yes, look at that ass. He is so strong. He does Russian kettlebell. And when I first saw him, we were just having a conversation. Dr. Porcelli introduced us, and I saw him start to adjust iron. And the first thing I noticed, he goes to assess him, and he was like, total body mechanics. I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. And then we started to have a conversation. I noticed he had Fibonacci series, the symbol for it, tattooed on his arm. And I was like, so, you know, Sound of Soul is based upon Fibonacci series. So I was like, so what's your philosophy? And this is my terminology. You can please correct me. But I was like, well, everybody I've told, I'm like, Dr. Avery approaches the body in a very different way. He looks at like if I have this here or this here, this pain, it's my body's compensation or adaptation, as you use the terminology, to allow the energy to flow the best way it can.
Yes.
And what you want to do is get the body to align within the magnetic field of the earth so that we are accessing the most power as we move through our lives.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And so you've also noticed this left thing. Can you explain that, Mr. Ambidextrous extraordinaire over here?
Yeah, so thought process on pretty much scoliosis is how this initial thought started coming to mind. So we don't understand scoliosis for the most part, teenagers, and I take care of a fair share of scoliosis patients, and for scoliosis, chiropractic is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely.
So I had a patient she started under care about a month ago, and she's just about to go to college, and she literally would go to sleep at 3 a.m. and would have to wake up at 12 every single day. Like could not sleep, and that sleep would be completely hour and then awake for 30 minutes, hour, wake for 30 minutes.
No, so totally disruptive.
And now a month under care, she's now sleeping through the night, 7-8 hours, like getting up before her parents, like the whole 9 yards.
That's great.
Game changer, right before college, which is amazing. So speaking of, one of my theories with scoliosis is that we know that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. Right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. Some super susceptible muscles to left and right brain dominance are a pair of muscles or a triplet of muscles on each side of the spine, called your paraspinals, if you will. And it's when you have left brain dominance, or teenage girls, for example, will try to be fitting in more. They'll try to find their clique. They'll try to, so if they're artistic, they're going to go straight to the artistic crowd. And that's going to be your right brain. So if you're more analytical or you're smart or you're math oriented or spelling bee or whatever it may be that way, you're going to go straight for that crowd. And that's a very important part of their life, to be fitting in. So some of their other parts of their brain, in the sense of left and right brain dominance, they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to use you right now. Let's focus on this. And if you're only focusing on strengthening one side of your brain completely, then you're going to have squeezing on one side, possibly more than the other.
Squeezing of the muscles, squeezing of the energy, squeezing of the blood flow.
So squeezing in a sense of these muscles line up all.
Because this side of my brain is working harder, so the opposite side of the muscles are working more.
And it'll start squeezing, which could be a contributing factor.
I think this is brilliance. I really do. And Dr. Avery is one of those doctors that doesn't just take what he's learned, right? He digests it. He's a critical thinker, and he figures out, well, maybe there's another way we should be thinking about that. That's a true scientist of figuring out, how does this body really work? How do many girls end up with scoliosis versus their counterpart males? And why is that? Yep. And if we can work on their self-assurance, if we can work on their self-love, as well as making sure that their entire body is in alignment with the universal magnetic field, then we're going to be able to gather that energy and grow in a straight patterned way, an upright like aligned pattern.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
You know, Silas is very artistic. He has
Mhm.
definitely gathered that information from his father.
Mhm.
We are not so much caring about making sure he's reading and writing, to be honest with you right now. We're more into play and using his imagination.
Which is perfect. Yeah. Which is
Yet,
perfect. Yeah.
when he comes in for assessment, and I'm noticed like, oh, this one toe pinches in a little bit and he rolls his shoulders. And I'm thinking that's all my crap from my posture. And oh my God, did I give that to him? And really what we talked about was it's more about his life now and focusing on that. And by using some alignments that Dr. Avery's taking with him, he can balance that more. And it doesn't mean that he shouldn't still go after the arts.
Exactly.
It's just going to allow more balance within the body, so those paravertebrals are not being squeezed on one side versus the other, even though he's still just using one side of his brain. Exactly. Correct?
Yeah. And there's and my thought process, and there's many ways to go about that, right? Do you want to start introducing certain things? Do you want to start, or do we just start breathing into areas, things like that? And those are very important aspects. And I don't think that's the end all be all of that puzzle. I think that's a contributing factor too, though it's going to take some serious thinking and serious sitting down and processing before I say this is what we do next.
Sure.
Though, again, chiropractic, tonal work, especially for kids, I hardly ever.
Tuning forks, you mean tonal work?
Tonal work in a sense of matching tone. So you probably felt it when I was adjusting you. When I say matching tone, it pretty much means like, so take this, so feel your tone is almost heavier than mine.
Okay.
So like right there, we're matching tone.
Okay.
You feel that?
Yep.
So same thing when I'm adjusting, if I find a subluxation track or a subluxation that's going through the system, I'm not putting more or less tone. I'm matching tone, frequency, feeling that, and not putting any more pressure than I have to release that. Mm-hmm. Because if you're relying on me, which I don't want, I'm trying to teach you to become your own doctor. My whole objective.
Wait, did you hear what he just said? Could you repeat that, Dr. Avery?
I'm trying to create you to become your own doctor.
You guys, I'm from Philadelphia, so I say you guys, but y'all, if you're listening to this down south, you know, that is what a true, for me, not med specialist is all about, is somebody that is giving you the information so you're not dependent upon us, whether we're in wellness practice, a biological dentist, a biological chiropractor, a biological medical doctor. We're here to empower you because you have the healing inside of all and each and every one of you. Mm-hmm. And that's the most important piece of how your body really works. You might need some expertise. You need some knowledge. You need to be trained how this works because we're not taught this in regular brick and mortar schools and how the school system's set up. We have to seek this information currently. But when you're in a chiropractor's office and they're just like, yeah, I want to see you 3 times a week and I'm going to rack you and crack your back, you might want to look for a different way if you're looking for true healing, because people like Dr. Avery are setting you up so you become your own doctor. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was brilliant. Yeah. And really, the core of what we're trying to do is get people to realize that there's no need to have fear. Mm-hmm. If you know how your body works, we're not in fear of getting coronavirus. Exactly. We're not in fear. And if we get it, we're okay with it because we know it'll be a few symptoms. Perhaps we can do things like IVs, or if we need to, or lymphatic flow, or go outside and breathe and take some time off, get in the sun, and allow our immune system to handle it. This is honestly nonsensical what's happening out there. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about that. So go back to teaching them how to be their own doctor.
Yeah. So my form of chiropractic, in a sense, is not to apply too much pressure or contact in the system. Yes, we definitely do some old, in a sense of osseous work. We'll definitely adjust. That's because every adjustment is your brain waking up. Especially at the beginning, we have to put some impulses in. We're walking up a staircase. Every step, your body's learning more. Every step, your body's learning more. But towards the end, it's more of all right, let's match tone. And so breathe take a deep breath, vector of where I'm sending, and then your system's doing all the work itself. And I humble myself. I don't do any healing. I'm a facilitator. I don't take credit for healing. I don't take credit for anything. It's all the body's way of healing. And I remove interference and remove blocks and allow the system to do its thing.
And he works with the fascia.
Mm-hmm.
He works with lymphatics.
Yep.
He refers people to biological dentist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is why this is such a beautiful association that we all have together. And we're so happy to be working with you and to be working with clients with you, because if you want to know how your body works, if you've been going to the chiropractor and you're, oh my gosh, it's always that same adjustment, or I'm just not feeling like myself, or you're getting colds, or you have really, in all honesty, any symptoms, if you're here in the South Carolina area, Savannah, anywhere, you need to come to Rooted Living to come see Dr. Avery. It's all about trees. It's all about staying rooted. It's all about staying grounded. It's all about being connected to the earth. Mm-hmm. And they exemplify that in their lifestyle. And they exemplify that with every client and certainly with each other. And they've just welcomed not only every client that we've sent them, but they've welcomed us, and we welcome them to continue to join our podcast and educate those people about how the body really works. And if you have any lasting words for our audience out there about healing, about their journey, because people are coming to this perhaps for the first time. Maybe they've been on a journey, they're looking for new information, they happened upon the beats, or perhaps they have been to other chiropractors and they're looking for something different, or their approach to health. Do you have any lasting words for everybody?
So there's certain laws of nature that we have to follow, and the way the universe works is there's no shortcuts in that matter. So if something has been, and all these systemic diseases that we're processing in this day and age, they don't happen overnight. So and that's one of the laws of nature, is time is one thing that we can never get back. So how do you expect to heal something that has been going and processing in the system for 25 or 30 years into a 3-month category of chemotherapy or drugs or surgery or whatever it is? The universe does not work like that. That's why we see a 90% or more return of cancer after all these treatments, right? So my advice would be search, and don't be too quick to judge. Everything that I read and look into, it takes some time to train the system to not say there's no way that works, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can get to that point, your life also changes too. Because if you can look at something and say, hold on, let's look into it. Let's see what this thing has, and just have an open mind when it comes to healing and health and well-being, and not breaking the laws of nature and universe and healing. Then your life changes too. It's really, really beautiful to see that process.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Avery. What I would like to say as a closing remark to all of that is, one of the things I really got from you and Jillian when we met is the devotion to the love that you have in helping people. Your heart was so evident the first day I met you, and it continues to be so. You have poured your heart out to clients that you've just met. You've poured your heart out to my other staff, to my husband, to my son, to myself, to the clients that I've talked to you about and with. That devotion is, for me, one of the biggest things that heals, is that when somebody's in your presence, they feel that from you, because you want to help their bodies heal. And for me, you can be the greatest adjuster in the world. You can give them the greatest supplements in the world. But if you're not connected to that person, if you're not heartfelt about, I'm in this with you and we're going to figure this out.
Exactly.
I haven't met a client that after he meets them, he doesn't go, I really look forward to working with you. And I really know he means that. Like, I feel that from him, that he goes, I really look forward to working with you because I want to help you figure this out. And that's an incredible gift that you're giving all of us. I want to thank you on behalf of all your client base who doesn't have the opportunity. Thank you all the time.
Yeah.
And on behalf of us at True Wellness for opening your center to us and our clinic. And we're going to be across the street, loving on you still and sending you clients.
Yeah.
And we're very excited to be here and excited to give this information to you. So if you would like to reach out to Dr. Avery, we will give you the information at the bottom of the show notes so you can follow him. He's soon going to start a podcast of his own, because this guy's a wealth of information. To put him and an Ian in a room together.
Oh yeah, it's good. Well,
I didn't see them for like 3 hours the other night. So where are they? And we were in chatting and talking about everything, and then they came in the perfect time just for the explanation of Sound of Soul, which we still get to play with while we're down here.
Yes, I'm very excited. Thank you so much for coming too. I've told you numerous of times that I'm very excited for everything that we're building here with Rich, with you and Ian and everyone. The future is going to be incredible here in South Carolina.
We're creating a little oasis of wellness down here for everybody within the same little development. And we're you probably saw that on our little promo video for this, but make sure to subscribe, hit the notification button. We'll see you on the Beats with Kelly Kennedy here next time on Not Meds. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care. Thanks again.